Hello, everyone, and welcome to this afternoon's webinar on Family Law Info, What's Legit. My name is Jessica Steingard. I'm a staff lawyer here at the Centre for Public Legal Education Alberta, or CPLEA for short. And we're excited to share some information with you about where you can find awesome family law information in Alberta. So I just want to set the tone for today's webinar. So today we're talking about where to find good family law information. So we won't be covering specific legal questions that you may have, but we'll be talking about information. Why are we only talking about where to find information? Well, maybe you're moving in with a partner. Maybe you've recently separated from your spouse and are planning to work together to make a separation agreement. Maybe you have a lawyer, but you want to understand more about the process. Maybe you support individuals who have legal issues. Legal information can be a powerful tool to help us understand our rights and obligations and hopefully help us make more informed decisions going forward. But the reality is that information is all around us. I mean, we could pick up our phones and we can be on a website and do a Google search and find information in 10 seconds. So there's a lot of information available to us. Some of it's amazing, some of it's not so great. So our goal here today is to share some really good sources of information so that if you have family law issues come up or questions about family law, that you know where to go to find really good information to hopefully help you deal with those issues. So that's a bit of context for what we're going to be talking about today. You'll see some other faces on your screen. I'm going to get to introductions in just a minute here. But a few housekeeping items. Okay, so before we move on, CPLEA respectfully acknowledges that we are located across Treaty 4, 6, 7, 8, and 10 territories, and we respect the histories, languages, and cultures of the First Nations, Métis, Inuit, and all First Peoples of Canada, whose presence continue to enrich our vibrant community today. Today's presentation contains legal information only and not legal advice. So just a disclaimer on that. And we would also like to thank our funders, the Alberta Law Foundation, the Department of Justice Canada, and the Alberta Real Estate Foundation for their generous funding to make webinars like this possible. A few other notes. We are recording today's webinar. It will be available on demand for you to view at any time on our CPLEA YouTube channel. And we'll send out the link to all of you registered here today. We'll send out the link when it's ready. Second, we will be answering your questions at the end. You can submit them at any time throughout the webinar using the Q&A function, but we'll save some time at the end to actually answer them. And third, when you leave today's webinar, you'll be prompted to complete a short survey to tell us how we did today. So please take 30 seconds and fill that out when you leave. Okay, so who is CPLEA? CPLEA, as I said, is the Centre for Public Legal Education Alberta, and our goal is quite simple, and that's to make the law understandable for Albertans. We are a nonprofit organization that serves all of Alberta. We provide legal information and education through our various booklets, info sheets, videos, webinars, websites, and more. And our goal is to make the law available and understandable and to empower all Albertans to use the law. If you head to cplea.ca, you'll find our main website here, and you can browse through the many different legal topics that we have information about. We have some separate websites about some topics. We'll be talking about one of them today, but you can link to all of those through this main page here. I also want to note that some of our resources have been translated into French, and you'll find those on the French resources page as well. Okay, so without further ado, let's meet our lovely panelists today. So I'll start with Angela and Alberta Law Libraries. So Alberta Law Libraries is a provincial network of law libraries that provides research, support, and information services to the legal community, self-represented litigants, and to all Albertans. And joining us from Alberta Law Libraries is Angela Ashton. So after obtaining her law degree from the University of Ottawa in 2003, Angela was called to the Alberta Bar in 2004 and practiced family law for a number of years in Alberta. Then Angela decided to return to school to get her master's in library and information studies in 2016, and she joined the Alberta Law Libraries team in October of 2023 and is now happily settled into her role as a law librarian. So thanks, Angela, for joining us. And our second panelist today is Denise from AJAFA. So I'm going to attempt in my French. L'Association des juristes d'expression française de l'Alberta, AJFA, is a nonprofit organization that promotes access to justice in French and operates the Alberta Legal Information Center. And so for the past 8 years, Denise Lavallee has been executive director there. And which translates to AJFA translates in English to the Legal Professionals Association of Alberta. So it's a nonprofit organization that was created in 1990 to promote access to justice in French in Alberta. And so since 2015, AJFA has been operating the Alberta Legal Information Center, which offers legal information support and referral services in French and in English with regard to clients' legal questions. And we're going to learn more about the center in today's presentation. So stay tuned to learn more about that. Thanks, Denise, for joining us. Okay, so we're going to work through a series of questions together. And then, like I said, we'll get to the end. If you have any questions from the audience, we'll take those then. But let's start with our first question here. So what are common misconceptions that Albertans have about legal information? So that might be where to find it, what you might expect to find, etc. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Angela, to get us started.
Thank you, Jess. So I had a bit of fun with this question. I put the question out to the various librarians and coordinators that I work with. And what I realized is there's a lot of misconceptions about the legal system and about family law. But in terms of really narrowing it down to legal information, I tried to be very specific. So one of the first things we came up with is that you need to be a lawyer to find and understand legal information. And I don't think everyone believes that, but I think some people do feel very overwhelmed when they come into our library and think this is not a space for me, but absolutely it is. And that's why your handy law librarian's there to help. But we also have many materials that are intended to help the public and people without law degrees understand their legal issue. So there are a lot of resources out there for people who either can't afford a lawyer and often and are representing themselves. We often refer to them as self-represented litigants. The other big one that I'll get to that is sort of the elephant in the corner, I think, for everything is that online legal information is trustworthy and that ChatGPT has all the answers. And I have to say, I've even fallen prey to that beautiful AI summary that you get now when you do a Google search and it tells you all this stuff and it seems so legit. But the first thing that I do is I take a look at where the information came from. So I wanted to just share very briefly when I'm instructing articling students and lawyers about legal research, we say you look for three things when you're looking at the legal information. You're looking for currency. So how old is the information? Because information, especially the laws, change. So you want to know if that information is up to date and still applies. In terms of family law, there have been a number of significant changes to both provincial and federal legislation in the last it's 5 to 10 years. So you always want to make sure that that information is up to date. The other one is jurisdiction. The fun thing, and I say fun in quotation marks, with family law is that it's concurrent or overlapping jurisdictions. So we have both federal and provincial laws that apply. Sometimes the provincial laws are the ones you're going to be looking at if you're non-married, but if you're divorcing, it's a federal law. So what that means is if you're unmarried in Alberta and you're given information about the Ontario, I think it's also called the Family Law Act, that doesn't apply here in Alberta. But if you're divorcing, the Divorce Act applies to everyone across Canada. So that's where jurisdiction, and this is, I think, where a lot of people kind of get tripped up. They find something like, this is perfect. This is exactly what I was looking for. But you have to make sure that the jurisdiction is correct and it applies to your situation. Okay, and the third one that we all, I think, know about is bias. Who doesn't express an opinion these days, even in law, no doubt. So you really, when you're reading something, you want to ask, is this a credible source of information? Is this person, do they have an opinion? Are they forwarding what they think is the right answer? So really consider the author of the source and if their point of view is prioritized or privileged in the text of the resource. Okay, and now I'll pass it back. I hope that wasn't too long.
No, absolutely. And actually, Denise, I'm going to come to you first, out of order.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, thanks for that, Angela. I would say some misconceptions is the form in which legal information is available. So most of us know that we can search for things online, but services such as ours actually offer free, confidential information services, and that can be by email, by phone, or by video conference. And so there's more and more legal service providers who are not necessarily lawyers, but who can bridge that gap between having to pay a professional and then having no help. Even when people call here and they say, well, what if I need a lawyer anyways? I said, well, you may as well come here and get all the free information that you can, because lawyers, you pay them by the minute. So the more work you can do beforehand and prepare yourself, the better you'll go in. And then another misconception is we actually have to know better as Albertans, like what kind of lawyers are there? And I can speak from outside of the law field because I did not study in law, studied in administration. And I did not know all the variety of specializations for lawyers. And then once you're in family law, you've got, you can have lawyers who have a collaborative divorce agreement or one family law, or so there's, the misconception is also that any lawyer can do any type of law. So that's another misconception. And also, I would say that Albertans aren't always aware that they have access to services in another language, in French, for us at our center. But I also have staff that can give services in Kiswahili, Kirundi. We have many French-speaking newcomers who arrive here who speak multiple languages. And so they don't think of looking for it. But thanks to our partnership too with CPLEA, who's right here, there's so many resources now that we can offer in French as well, even videos. So I think that would sum up, Jess, the misconceptions that I've seen.
Perfect. Thank you. And yeah, I think that's a great overview, even from what we see at CPLEA, is that, the power of legal information in resolving legal issues. And I mean, I'm a lawyer and Angela's a lawyer, but we work in fields where we're providing legal information instead, and just seeing how powerful that can be. There is a place absolutely for lawyers in the legal system, and there are many situations where it is very valuable to get a lawyer, whether that's free legal services or paid legal services. But there's definitely lots of really good information available that can also help you move through different situations and empower you to make different decisions. And it's like we said, it's freely available too. And so figuring out where to go for that. We are going to talk, I'm going to move on to our next question. This is an important distinction we need to make as we're talking about legal information. There's a difference in Alberta between legal information and legal advice. And so you might, if you go get help to find legal information, whoever the service provider is probably going to bring up this difference or this distinction. And it's an important one. And it's a distinction that protects both you as the person receiving information and us as the folks giving legal information. So in Alberta, only lawyers, licensed lawyers, and when I say licensed, I mean those who have membership with the Alberta Law Society, only those lawyers can give legal advice. Others can give legal info. So what does it mean to give legal advice? Well, it would be handy if we had really clear definitions, but unfortunately that's not the case. So what we have is kind of a jumble of places that we look for guidance of what does it mean to actually give someone legal advice. And there's a few key differences between legal advice and legal information. So one is that whereas a lawyer can tell you, here's your different options and here's what I recommend you do. That recommendation of what you can do in that situation, that's giving legal advice. If you go get legal information from someone, they can still lay out different options that might apply to you, but they can't tell you which one you should take or what they would recommend for your situation. So that's one of the biggest key differences, is actually taking the law and applying it to someone's situation, telling them what they are, suggesting what they should do, telling them how a judge might decide their case, filling out forms even sometimes can be considered giving legal advice. And so going back to even our first question of what some of the misconceptions are, is that legal info can only go so far. And that's on purpose, because if someone gives you advice and that's wrong advice, then you need to have some sort of way to, if something happens in your life and they give you the wrong advice, you need to have a way to hopefully get some recourse. And that's why legal or lawyers have liability insurance. You can access that. But those of us who are only giving legal information, we don't have access to that. So if I give you the wrong advice as someone who is not allowed to give advice, then you are kind of left. You don't have a lot of options. You may not have some options at that point for correcting that mistake. So that's an important difference. So one is legal advice is when someone actually tells you what to do in your situation. And the reason they can give you that advice is because a lawyer has liability insurance behind them that allows they can step in if they give you the wrong advice. But there are so many folks who can give legal information. As we're going to talk about Angela and Denise are both folks who work at agencies that can give legal information, right? And so that's explaining, here's what the law says. Here's some different options for resolving disputes. Those are all examples of information that can get you, that can actually help you resolve your issue without telling you exactly what you need to do. We are going to post a link in the chat, and we'll be posting several links throughout the chat. So if you're watching, please check out the links that are going in there. So we've just posted a chat. CPLEA has a tip sheet on legal info versus legal advice to help you understand the difference and kind of give some scenarios on what's legal information, what's legal advice. But I'm going to turn it over to Angela to add to that.
Okay, well, and I just have to say, mwah, chef's kiss. I couldn't have explained it better. So thank you, Jess. And we have the CPLEA. There's a fantastic handout that's what is the difference between legal information and legal advice. We always have that right on our counter. We refer to it all the time because it is a very tricky area, especially for us, those of us who have retired our robes, shall we say. And I guess the other way of looking at it is we don't have liability insurance. So we don't want you to sue us and you don't want to take advice from me. Definitely not. I'll give you some strange advice. But in terms of the difference, so one of the quotes that I really like about legal research is about learning the law. So legal information, and understanding how the law applies to your case. And that's the legal advice piece. So once you start wondering, well, do my facts fit into this scenario, or how does my particular situation, what's that going to look like? That's legal advice. So I hope that is also helpful. And I wanted to provide a few examples because I think examples are a great way. And I'm not always the best at analogies, but we get a lot of people who come in to our library. So I'm in the Edmonton branch, second floor of the courthouse. We get a lot of people coming in saying, I need to fill out these forms. I don't know how to do it. And we do our best to provide general information, but we definitely will say, no, we cannot tell you what to put in there. But so, for example, we'll have someone come in and say, I need to provide evidence. The clerks told me I need a Form 49, which only, people who work in the courthouse would know this specifically. It's a generic affidavit. So that's legal information. I'm just going to show you on the Alberta Courts website how to find that form. And I should mention, and I'll get into this in a bit, we have workstations. You can do all that in the library. Legal advice would be, what do I put in? What can I put in here to win my case? Or what, I don't know if I should talk about, growing up on a farm, and no, that sort of thing, that's too specific. That's legal advice. Another one is, say you're looking for cases about families or about parents moving to another province. That's legal information. And I would show you, maybe some textbooks, some databases where you could do your research. But legal advice would be, I have a custody order and I can move to another province, right? Like this case, and this case is going to help me win, right? That's legal advice. So that was the best that I could come up with for the difference. I hope that is helpful.
Yeah, that ties in a lot of what I was going to say, and add to that, like you say, Angela, if somebody comes in and wants help with the form, we can help them understand what the form is asking, because like I said before, we're very sensitive to the language issue. Sometimes is that, what does that word mean? And we can help with that. And Angela, you talked about the information being available readily to everyone. Our legal information officers will follow up with an email with the sources, like whatever information they provide or refer to is available online. It's public information. It's not something, oh, I'll write to you on this little note what I think you should do specifically because this is your best chance. So that's good. It protects us, but it also what a great thing to do for clients because the information's there, but sometimes you don't know where to start looking, what sources. So we can do that as legal information providers.
Excellent. Thank you. So hopefully that gives you some context for the rest of today's conversation as well as what can you expect to find when you're going to find legal information. So we're not going to answer your legal question specifically, but we can point you in the direction of information to help you, maybe to help you answer your question or at least help you take the next step. I just want to make a note as well. We've posted the links in the chat, but when we send out a thank you email, which will also include the link to the recording, we'll also send you the links to all the resources we post in the chat. So don't worry about frantically copying and pasting them from the chat. We'll send you an email with all of that later on. Okay, so we've kind of set the tone now. We've talked about what legal information is and what are some misconceptions when it comes to legal information. And we've alluded to some of what Alberta Law Libraries does and what AJFA does, but I want to give both Angela and Denise a chance to describe some of their programs, and I'll share a little bit more about what CPLEA does as well. So I'll start with you, Angela. What services do Alberta Law Libraries provide?
Well, the question is, what don't we provide, Jess? No, I'm just kidding. So we have resources both in print and online that are essential to the practice of law in Alberta. And so it started out as a collection funded by the Law Society for lawyers and for the judiciary, and has evolved to recognize that, and I always pull this stat out, don't ask me where I got it from, I'm pretty sure it's legit, but something like 50 to 80% of people in family law matters are self-represented. And they often start out with a lawyer and then end up not being able to afford a lawyer. So as a result of just this big shift in how family law matters in particular are litigated, and just generally people not being able to afford lawyers, people and still requiring access to justice. We have a lot of information. So we have some public legal information that has CPLEA all over it. We order our booklets from you. They're fantastic. But we also have textbooks. We have annotated legislation. We've got the really nitty gritty stuff that lawyers are going to want to look at when they're preparing their matters. But mainly we have on-site workstations and resources that the public can use. And you can also access some of these resources remotely by applying for a library account. So you can apply for a public library account. It lasts about 3 months and it gives you access to some materials. The main thing is, and it always breaks my heart to say this, even though I understand why, is the public doesn't have borrowing privileges. So that's the main thing. You're more than welcome to come to any of our 10 branches, hang out all day. We have, really nice little study carols. You can just disappear for a while, read the books, but you can't take them home with you. But the good news is a lot of these textbooks are now available online, and we can offer access to some databases that have these textbooks digitized. And they're great. They're Essentials of Canadian Law is the one that I'm thinking of. So we've got a little bit of everything, everything you need as a self-represented litigant. Besides, now, yes, I am a lawyer. We all know this. I always joke that I identify as a librarian, not a lawyer. But we're not able to provide that legal advice. So we can set you up on a workstation. We can log into Westlaw or Lexis. We can show you a finding tool like the Canadian Encyclopedic Digest. We have a lot of secondary sources that help when you're not very familiar with an area of law, both for lawyers and for the public. My favorite is the Canadian Encyclopedic Digest, to give you sort of a lay of the land. And then from there, we would be able to assist if you needed to find cases or forms, that sort of thing. But it ends with once you need to fill that out and decide how to present your information. Jess, if you don't mind, next slide, because I think, yes. Okay, so there's our beautiful, of course I'm not biased, our beautiful homepage, and you can see the top there, the navigation bar. I'm going to speak very, very quickly, and I'm going to try to zip through this because I don't want to take up too much of your time. Our services and the main resources that I think are great for the public, which is our navigating legal information guides. So Jess, if you could just go to the next slide, please. So this is when you the pull down menu from navigating legal information. And you can see beside it on the left, there are research guides. Those are fantastic. I'm not saying you shouldn't, as a member of the public, look at them, but you might get a few more gray hairs when you do, because they're very technical, they're very specific, they're sort of geared towards lawyers who just jump in there and know, what textbooks and annotations are. But if you go to the research guides, you might be a little bit overwhelmed initially. So I would suggest when you go into the navigating legal information menu, legal research basics is a really great way to get a feel for the law and for understanding the law. There's also finding legal help, which I'll talk about in a second. And one of our most popular guides is finding court forms and precedents, because wow, it is not an easy thing to do. Everyone struggles with that. So we do our best to help. And then there's also a section on researching cases, finding legislation. Again, whew, that is a specialty. Even I get like cold sweats when people ask me to look for historical legislation. And then other things like if you're looking for a journal article. So these guides are a really great start to your legal journey, shall we say, and will orient you for your future legal research. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, and fantastic. So we've already talked about this a little bit. We've alluded to it, and we'll go into more detail with the questions that will follow. But one of our most recommended guides is finding legal help. And you can see each of those menu items has an arrow, so you can open it up, and there's huge lists. Well, not huge, again, just useful lists. There are a lot of various services that can help you. So finding a lawyer, you can always look through the Law Society of Alberta, and there's a link there to the lawyer directory. Free legal assistance, so places like Edmonton Community Legal Clinic that offer supports for low-income parties is there. So if you're at the beginning of your journey and you would like to speak to someone, this would be a great place to begin, is taking a look. And we've got a great section there on preparing for court. There's also translation services that comes up quite a bit. And hopefully everything that you need to know about dispute resolution, which is becoming a requirement for a lot of matters. Okay, next slide, please. And so I just took screen captures from our website. I've kind of already gone through it, but essential, you'll find everything you need and all sorts of stuff you never wanted to look at or never wanted to know about. Guess what? There's a bankruptcy picture book. That's still my favorite in our collection, but we do have some fantastic books, but a lot of them are annotated legislation, seminar materials so there's the Legal Education Society of Alberta. That's a huge part of our collection. And they have practice manuals, they have seminar materials. They're really great for lawyers, but they're also great for the public if you're trying to kind of wrap your head around a certain area. They tend to be very specific. So we have all manner of information available, and we will help you to the best of our abilities to find what you need to find. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, and this is right on. So Jess, I was thinking about this. So we don't want to say, it's really awful to start by saying, I can't do this and I won't do that. So we cannot give you legal advice. So you cannot say, Angela, how can you just fill this out for me? No, I think we've been there, not going to happen, but we can do a lot of things. We can direct you to the location. We can look at finding help. We can set you up with maybe some legal supports. And we can talk about the language, because we haven't talked about this, but keywords and language are a huge part of legal research. We have terms in in the everyday that are not used in law. And I mean, a lot of people, that's what's so frustrating, right? It's whole language. And yes, we have a number of dictionaries, but we also have words and phrase books just to make sure that you are finding that you're doing that you're going down the right track in terms of your research. And then the big thing as well is we have workstations. So in the Edmonton branch, we have, I believe it's 7 computers that hook up to a printer. We can do photocopying. We can help you with scanning, that sort of thing. Um, Everything we really do. I have an excellent team, and we go above and beyond. We try to help as best we can, and we also aim to provide a quiet working environment. That's kind of funny. That's always an ongoing issue. But sometimes you go into the library, it's packed. Other times it's beautifully, it's so quiet. It just really depends on the day. Anyway, okay, so those are our summary of the services to the public. And okay, I just wanted to highlight a few things. So I want you to take, if you're going to take away one thing from this is Alberta Law Libraries. We call it Ask a Law Librarian, but basically you can email us, you can fill out a form and ask us questions. And I have to say, it's never a dull moment. The questions that we get in the shared mailbox, I've never had the same question twice. Very interesting. I learn something new every day. I love it. So everything from hunting regulations to, like looking for a specific article. Um, so Ask a Law Librarian is, you can access it from our main page. You can fill out the form. That would be, I would say one of the jewels in the crown of the services we provide. And the guides I've gone through, Finding Legal Help and Legal Research Basics, are fantastic. And our e-resources. I'm not going to get into them because your eyes are going to roll into the back of your heads. There's just, you need to come in for us to show you, but we do have, like I mentioned, a number of resources that you can access online to assist in your legal research endeavors. Okay, so I think those are all of okay. Yeah, I always like to do like top 3, top 4. So navigating legal information, those guides are great. Finding legal help, all the clinics, all the supports, it's all there. Ask a law librarian. You can email or submit the form, or you can do this old school thing called using a telephone. We do get a lot of calls still. It's easier though, honestly, if we were to receive an email, because it's easier for us to kind of do our digging and see what we can figure out. And just know that, yes, the public can always apply for a library account, which lasts 3 months, and you can renew every 3 months. And with your account, it gives you access to some great resources remotely, so you can do your research at home. All right, so that is a tour of the Alberta Law Libraries.
Thanks, Angela. That's awesome. So much information available. So we posted the link as well to the Alberta Law Libraries website. If you Google it, you'll come up with the website as well. And everything Angela talked about is all accessible from the main website. So definitely a good resource to have on hand. Okay, let's switch gears. I'm going to turn over to you, Denise, to talk about the Alberta Legal Information Center operated by AJAFA.
Yes, thank you, Jess. And so we're kind of unique, if I can say that, because like Jess said, our association is celebrating 35 years, and it was founded by French-speaking lawyers. So we're a Francophone organization now. What we do, our events, all our resources are in French. However, when we started the Information Center, which you'll see it has a name in French too, Centre d'Information, we said, well, we won't turn away anyone who speaks English or any other language that my staff speaks and who wants information. So that might be confusing when you say, well, there's so much more stuff in French, or some people say, well, you're not reading in French first. And it's like, well, it's because that's who we are, but we try to offer to everyone. So anyone can call us for an in-person appointment, for example. So in Edmonton, we're located at La Cité Francophone. Don't know if you know where that is. It's in the Bonnie Doon area. We also have a legal information officer in Calgary, and she shares her location with the Center for Francophone Newcomers over there. That's in downtown Calgary. But because we offer also free public notary services, so you can come in and get anything notarized for free as long as you have an appointment, and often we can make those appointments within 2 days. We do that. So lots of people, ECLC also, Edmonton Community Legal Center will send us clients for that because we can do that quite quickly. And we even have an employee who goes to Red Deer once a month because there's so many people there who need public notary services in French. That's what we do. So when you do arrive on our webpage, we do have some things in French, a client form in French, which you fill out, and then we follow up with you to make that appointment, whether it be by phone or in person. And then we kind of direct everyone to CPLEA for information in English, because you'll find on our website all their information in French or some things that we've produced in French. Like one example is this, it's called Juripedia, very colorful, developed over 13 years ago, when there's so many French-speaking newcomers moving to Alberta. That was a tool put in to answer like FAQs on just any field of law that would touch your daily life. And we've gotten so many rave reviews that we just update it all the time. And we have some people who've moved here who said that they got this before immigrating. One lady said she read it on the plane and it has saved her life. So anyways, we try to only create what doesn't exist. Otherwise, we use what CPLEA has. And we also offer workshops. So often either in person in schools or community events or webinars. And that we do mostly almost only in French, since that exists already in English. So those are three of the ways, I think, are three main services that we offer, on top of having resources we can give right here in our offices, or we have kiosks, often a booth at different community events where we can give that information.
Awesome. Thanks, Denise. So what I'm hearing is we have two really great services. So Alberta Law Libraries, to ask a librarian, you can email a question in, and you're only going to get legal info, right? Because we already talked about that. Angela's not going to give you legal advice. She's not going to answer your specific question, but she can point you in the right direction. And then as well, through the Alberta Legal Information Center, you could talk to a person either in person, or you can have an appointment by phone. And again, talk to them and get information. So they might be able to, if you say, hey, I'm trying to figure out how to get an order about this. So they might say, okay, well, here's a really good information sheet or website or something you can go to. So those are in-person services, but then lots of information online as well. So if you can talk to someone, but you can also go to either the Alberta Law Libraries website, or AJFA's website, the center's websites more specifically, and get access to lots of written information that you can peruse on your own as well.
Yeah, and Jess, I should add, kind of like Angela did, we also refer people to other services, whether they be in the legal field or other wraparound services, because here at La Cité Francophone, we have French-speaking doctors, the Family Resource Center, Francophone School Board. So that's always something we try to do. Our members are all over Alberta. They speak French, and we know them personally, and so that's a lot of referencing we can do.
Yeah, I think that's an important piece as well. And I know, Angela, you mentioned that as well, is that, sometimes Alberta Law Libraries or the center may not be able to answer all of your questions, but hopefully they can give you a place where you can follow up for more information as well.
Exactly.
Perfect. Okay, so two really great agencies providing really great information for free to the public, right? That's the key, for free. AJFA services in French and other languages that their staff speak as well. So, love to highlight those two resources that are available. I'm going to talk a little bit too about some of the work that CPLEA has done with respect to family law issues as well. So, our role at CPLEA is to provide legal information for free to the public, or to those who are helping individuals with legal issues. So we have a bunch of free legal information available as well. Last year, we completed a huge project, and we actually built an entire website about family law information in Alberta. So You are going to find there's over 50 web pages with content about family law in Alberta. Everything from starting a relationship, so what does it mean to get married, to moving in with your partner. What are some of the legal things that you should be thinking about when you're moving in with a partner? And then all the way through to, caring for children, if children's services is involved, and then if the relationship ends, what are some different legal issues that come up? So family.cplea.ca is our brand new website. So there's lots of information on there. This is all written in plain language. So it is really meant to be an overview of the law, an overview of a process, and hopefully written in a way that's a little bit more understandable than some of the legal text. If you're looking for really specific information, though, you're probably going to have to go to Alberta Law Libraries, and their guides will provide that really nuanced information as well. Because in a website of this size, we could only go so deep. But we tried to cover some of the most common legal issues that come up in the family context. Um, we're also excited to announce, so this launched in June of last year, so it's just almost a year old now, and we just finished in the last couple months translating it fully into French. So that was with the support and lots of help from Ajafa. And so this website is available in both English and French. So if you see at the top, this again is just a screen grab of the homepage, but there's a little globe at the top and it says EN, and you can click on that and you can go to the French website as well. So any of the pages, the whole site is available in French as well. So I want to highlight that. So like I said, everything from being in a relationship, pregnancy and adoption, caring for children, what happens when your relationship ends? There's a page, it's like, if your relationship has just ended, what are some quick things you should be thinking about right away? Support payments, child support, spousal or partner support are huge issues. Family violence issue as well. We've got some information on that. And then getting help. That includes information about who can help you. So lawyers can help you. There's counselors that can help. There's mediators and arbitrators that can help. So I'm trying to give you the full context of who can provide help in family law situations. Outside of court as well. So you'll see there's a going to court tab as well, which covers a lot of different court processes. So this information is available. There's some guided pathways through it as well, where you answer a few questions, and I'll, give you, are you a parent, for example, is one of them. So you'll answer a few questions, and you get to the end, and I'll let you know if you're legally considered a parent to a child, or are legally considered a guardian to a child, for example. So we've posted that link in the chat, like I said, but this website is all about family law. I want to highlight one specific piece on the website, and this is our section on other helpful resources. So we recognize that the website, we've tried to include the most common legal issues that come up in the family context, but there's lots of really great information available from CPLEA and from others as well. So on this page, you'll see on the left-hand side there, you can filter the resources by type. And so if you want to find a video, or you're looking for a specific topic, you can narrow information down. Like I said, you'll find information both produced by CPLEA and also from different agencies across the province as well. So if you are looking for more information that's not available on the website, this is highlighted here. CPLEA also has a print resource called Family Law 101. And so it's a even higher level overview of family law in Alberta. So I think if you go into Alberta Law Libraries, or Ajafa there's a French version as well. They can give you a takeaway copy of this booklet that gives you an even briefer summary. And then it'll also point you to where you can find more information about that topic on the website. So if you're looking for something in print, we do have that booklet called Family Law 101. And if you go through other helpful resources, it is also linked from that page as well. Okay, I'm mindful of the time here, and we have a couple more questions to get through. So we've covered some really great information available, Alberta Law Libraries, Ajafa, and from CPLEA. Where else can Albertans go for information? We know that our three agencies are not the end all be all for information about family law. But so we want to highlight a couple other resources as well. So I'll start with you, Angela, to talk about other information sources.
One of the places that I start with is, and I don't know the specific address, but the government of Alberta has a number of family laws. So I think it's called family law legislation. and it goes through the difference between the Divorce Act, the Family Law Act, the language of the Adult Interdependent Relationship Act, which just does not flow easily, but that's what we call common law people here in relationships in Alberta. It has some really fantastic information. So I'd say my vote would be Government of Alberta, and then also the Family Resolution Hub. I don't know if that is it a support, is it information? It is it is more specific. It's a decision tree, so you'll enter information and then it spits out sort of, okay, here's the facts and here's the services that may be able to assist you, like the family court counselors. It's fantastic. Even just to organize your thoughts before you go in to speak to a lawyer, it's really great for that. So that's the Family Resolution Hub, and that's another project of the Government of Alberta, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then there's the Parenting After Separation course. I mean, I have to say it, sometimes I forget because it's just sort of like second nature to me, because you have to take this course if you want to be divorced, if you want to make a court application. I think even if you want a consent order, or if you agree, you still need to take this course. So it's mandatory, but it's fantastic. They also have a course for higher conflict couples. Used to be called Focus on Communication in Separation. I'm not sure what it's called now. So they have some really great courses as well. So I'll leave it there for now.
Yeah, Parenting After Separation, which is available in French since about 6 years ago, and I truly meet people who are delighted to find out that it's offered in French and I think other languages as well. I'd have to double check to see, but quite a bit of things to be found on Government of Alberta, and I would add Government of Canada website as well, and then in both official languages. So that's a great source. And also just locally, people can find quite a bit of information by seeking out some legal clinics, Edmonton Community Legal Center, Calgary Legal Guidance, and also University of Calgary and University of Alberta. They have their Faculty of Law, and they always have like in Edmonton, it's called Student Legal Services, and then I think it's Legal Guidance anyways in Calgary. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jess, but during the university year, that's a great source of people that you can meet up with. I believe they have a do your own divorce kit and webinars. So yeah, Jess, if you want to fill that in, I know we've sent people there, but maybe you know a little bit more on what they actually do offer.
Yeah, there's student legal services and then student legal assistance, I think it's called in Calgary, SLA, at the University of Calgary. And they are, like Denise said, law students, and they offer a number of information services. And they also offer some representation in like they can help with some legal issues as well. So they can give like they can appear with you in some court appearances, but they have a limited scope. Best to go to their websites and figure out because they do have a limited scope that they work with, but they can offer a lot of help within those different areas. So yes, definitely check them out as a resource. Before I move on to a few others, I want to mention the courts website as well. AlbertaCourts.ca that's where you can find all the court forms. They're linked. I'm sure ALL links to them. We link from them on our family law website, but you can find the full list of court forms on the website, and they do have some information about processes as well. So Family Docket Court, for example, is one that applies in Edmonton and Calgary. It's a first stop for family law issues in the Court of King's Bench, and there's a lot of information about that court on the court's website as well. Further legal supports, we've already talked about Edmonton Community Legal Center. There's Calgary Legal Guidance in Calgary, student legal services, student legal assistance. Those are what we call free or pro bono legal clinics or free legal clinics. So those generally are for lower income Albertans. But I say generally because some of them have programs that are available to all Albertans. So best to contact them if you're looking for support. There's legal clinics across the provinces, so not just Edmonton and Calgary. So there's Red Deer, Lethbridge, Medicine Hat, Fort McMurray, Grand Prairie, and Lloydminster. I think I've got, and they cover like, Lloydminster and area, Red Deer and area. So legal clinics are a great resource as well. And what can you expect to find at a legal clinic? You can usually get a 30 to 45-minute appointment with a volunteer lawyer. So that's not a lawyer that's going to take on your case, but you can sit and talk with them for 45 minutes and they'll give you what we call summary legal advice. And so they can give you information and advice about, here's the next step that you can take. So like I said, they don't become your lawyer. They only talk to you for that 45 minutes and then you're back on your own, but you can usually the clinics will let you sign up for further appointments down the road if you need to come back, once you've taken a step, you need to come back for more information or support. So there's legal clinics. There's also legal aid that provides services. Legal aid also is for low-income Albertans, so they have a threshold. They have an income threshold that you have to meet in order to qualify for their services. And sometimes there's a misconception that legal aid can help with everything. They don't. So legal aid has just because there's so much demand, their mandate is usually limited to family issues, especially where there's children involved or family violence involved, and criminal issues. And if children's services is involved, if I mentioned that one. So they are usually, those are the core of their services, but again, their website has more information about the different services that they can offer. I'll speak to one more and then I'll turn it over to Angela and Denise, and that's lawyers. So lawyers obviously are legal support. You can hire a lawyer. If you don't qualify for some of the free services available in the province, then you have an option to hire a lawyer. And there's sometimes a misconception of I have to hire a lawyer to help me do everything, and you don't. We have what's called a limited scope retainer that more and more lawyers are offering. So you can sometimes just hire a lawyer to help you with one specific piece of the puzzle. And then, they'll help you with that. And then you can carry on your own. And there's actually a listing of lawyers that offer that services. And many lawyers do if you have a preferred lawyer, if you want to go to the Alberta Law Society's website that offers the lawyer directory, and you can find all the lawyers across Alberta. And lots of them will indicate whether or not they offer those limited scope retainers, we call them. So those are some different options, but Angela and Denise, Angela, do you want to start with some other ones?
Jess, the only thing that I would add to your list would be Native Counseling Services of Alberta. That they're a wonderful support for Indigenous peoples who are involved in the law, engaged in the law for whatever reason. They have a court worker support program, I believe, that's very helpful. We try to get, they've got some really great information, little cards on, know your rights and even moving. They also have some great resources available for the public, but especially for our Indigenous friends who may be watching right now.
Thanks, Angela. Denise, before you carry on, I want to that just twigged for me. Native Counseling Services has a public legal education branch called Bear Paw Media, and
That's what I was thinking. That's what I was
Bear
thinking.
Paw Bear Paw Media has produced these fantastic maps. If children's services is involved. So you'll find it linked from the CPLEA Family Law website. I can't remember the URL offhand, but if you go to the page on children, if children's services is involved, we link to those maps, and they're these beautiful graphic maps that walk through the different processes if children's services is involved with a family. So thanks for that, Angela. Absolutely. Denise?
Yeah, I'll just finish off just to add on to what you were saying with the information on the court websites. Court of Justice has some information in French, and so does Court of King's Bench, because you have a right to proceedings in French in a divorce case. So the forms are there, and they also have a French-speaking legal counsel that will take on your information and just find what you need within that system to make it work for you. She pulls together different actors and speaking of all languages, when you do go on the lawyer directory on the Law Society of Alberta, you can search per language. So you can type in Portuguese, Spanish, German, and you get the whole list of all the lawyers in Alberta who practice in that language. They're not all family law lawyers, but I was, it's very impressive, the languages out there. So that's something that they've only added on, I think, in the past 6, 7 years. So that's another terrific tool to help out our clients.
Yeah, absolutely. The lawyer directory there's a lot more fields that you can narrow down lawyers for or narrow down lawyers by than there used to be. So absolutely. Um, Oops. As another tool on CPLEA's Family Law website, so is the Find Legal Support page. So you can find that at the very top in this eyebrow menu on the site. And again, you can use it to narrow down different services that are available in Alberta. So all the ones we've talked about here are listed on the website. You can already see Alberta Law Libraries in alpha order is peeping up at the bottom there. So all these services are listed on here on the Family Law website. There are lots of government services, for example, that help with one issue. Like I'm thinking of the child support recalculation program, for example. So that's linked from here. If you click on child support, it would narrow down some resources specific to that. So this is kind of a one-stop shop. Angela's already highlighted on the Alberta Law Libraries website. There's the Find Legal Help Guide as well that you can reference to find different supports available. And Denise has talked about some of the supports available in French as well. Okay, so we've covered a lot. Hopefully that gives you a good some starting points. I know there's a lot of information that we presented today about where to go for information, but hopefully it gives you some good starting points if you're looking for to learn more about family laws in Alberta. We do have a few more minutes left, so if there are any questions from the audience, you're welcome to type them into the Q&A chat or Q&A function right now, and we'll try and get to them. And just as we're waiting to see if any questions pop up, I just want to thank Angela and Denise for joining us and for sharing about their agencies. And hopefully, like I said, there's legal information can be so empowering. And so if you're facing a family law issue or not really sure where to look, hopefully we've given you a starting point to at least get you started and yeah, that gives you a little bit of hope for what's going on right now. I'm going to give it another 10 seconds for someone to type their question in. And if not, then we'll let everyone head on their way. As well, when you exit today's webinar, like I said, please take a few minutes or not even a few minutes, like 30 seconds and fill out the survey at the end to let us know what you thought of today's webinar and if there's any other topics that you'd like to see webinars on. We definitely value your input and feedback on that. So, okay, I'm past my 10-second mark and I don't see any questions in the chat. So we're going to leave it there for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Angela and Denise as well.
Thank
And
you.
like I said, you'll get a follow-up email from us with all the links that we presented in the chat and when this webinar is available on demand for you to watch on our YouTube channel. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Jess, for hosting this. This was great.
Yes, this is great. Thank you, Jess, for inviting us.
Absolutely. Thank you for highlighting the great work that you do to serve Albertans. So we will leave it there. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and we'll see you next time.